Hello, friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
74.
It is 74, and it's been a while.
It's been a minute. For 6 or 7 weeks.
We did not plan on taking like a month and a half off from the podcast.
We didn't.
It just sort of happened with the Fiji trip and with just kind of life. And so...
Yeah, we had actually planned on recording podcasts ahead of time before we left for Fiji.
Yep.
To have some like pre-uploaded.
And we planned on recording podcasts in Fiji.
We did do that as well.
Hey, Sherry, did either of those things happen?
Sure not.
Not at all. So now we are back, but we're back with what I think will be a really fun first episode back.
Yes, we gave this a little bit of a teaser. Listen.
I'm sorry. I'm just mocking you today.
Well, I know.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sass.
Lots of sass.
We gave a little bit of a teaser in our last Fiji video, kind of a wrap up of our Fiji trip.
We did. So one of the things that we had planned on our Fiji trip was kind of an anniversary celebration.
And by we mean Adam.
Totally. We're going to go into all of that. This ended up being both the low of our trip and one of the highs.
Yes.
And it's such an interesting story, but it happened on a day that we weren't vlogging. You know, we actually put the camera down vast majority of the trip.
Yep.
And this was one of the days that we didn't vlog. But I will say, looking back on it, there's a part of me that's like, man, that would have been an amazing day to have documented, because what a frickin' range of emotions.
Yes, true.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to give a little bit of the backstory.
Yes, because you're the one who actually planned all of this.
Yes. So our Fiji trip, our anniversary was happening while we were in Fiji. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to do something special, right? It's like, you're in Fiji for your anniversary. Yes, Fiji itself is special enough, but I wanted to do something special. Mm-hmm. And I wanted it to be really romantic and beautiful. And so this was probably 3 months ago now, maybe even a little bit more. I started searching I just had this vision in my head of this really romantic, really beautiful private dining on a beach in Fiji. Like, that was what I had in my head. Like, what a great anniversary dinner, just the two of us, not a busy restaurant. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking through like a lot of the Fiji groups that we're a part of on Facebook and social media. I started looking for like private beach dining in Fiji, like what my options were. And I found a few of them, even to the point like I was talking to like private chefs. You know what I mean? Like, do I do like my own thing? But then I came across this opportunity, or this option, that the Intercontinental Resort in Fiji does. Now, the Intercontinental is one of the, a small handful of the really high-end 5-star resorts in Fiji. It's located on a beach that was named like the 9th nicest beach in the world. Like, it's exactly what you think of when you think of Fiji. Beautiful, like, you know what I mean?
Right, like the white sand beaches and the...
Everything, yep. All of that stuff. And so there was this thing that they offer called Dinner Under the Stars, where it is a private dining experience for two, and when you show up, they meet you with a cocktail, like a sparkling, I think it was like a glass of sparkling wine, and then there's this whole dinner, which is just like lobster and crab and calamari, like all of the
prawns and like, yeah,
basically like a local Fijian seafood feast for you. Beachside, 9th nicest beach in the world, 5-star resort,
under the stars,
and I'm just like, this is perfect. And so I go back and forth with the resort for a while, just kind of confirming everything, getting everything in place for our anniversary.
And all he told me was to pack a nice dress.
Yep. I said we have one night where we're doing something nice, so just like pack a nice dress. But you didn't know kind of anything.
Nope. That's all I knew was to pack a nice dress.
So, our day of our anniversary comes. Mm-hmm. We kind of spend the day around our resort, just relaxing. And then the time comes that we need to leave to go to the Intercontinental. Now, you still don't know what's going on.
Still no idea.
The Intercontinental was about a 45 minute drive from our resort. So I had already arranged a driver to bring us to the Intercontinental. And that day was a little bit cloudy at our resort. Mm-hmm. But like just a little overcast, like not raining, not really anything bad at all.
Right.
So our driver picks us up. He's driving us to the Intercontinental, and it's you kind of have to drive up into the mountains a little bit, and then you sort of drop down to the beach that it's at. Well, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes into our drive, if that, it starts to rain.
Yeah, and it's just sort of a light rain, but I can tell that Adam is not super happy about this light rain, and I was like, it's fine. Like, we've dealt with rain before. Like, rain is not going to scare us away from anything.
Yeah, because
I still don't know, like, what this is, and I'm just like, rain's fine. Like, it's fine.
And so I think I even said, I was like, well, as long as it stays a sprinkle, I think we're good. But, like, let's just hope it doesn't start to, like, downpour. And it's almost like as soon as I said those words, the skies opened up.
Right. And honestly, like, part of me, like, was loving it because I haven't seen rain like this. Like, it really doesn't rain like that in Alaska. Like, a hard rain is basically a light sprinkle anywhere else. And this was like, yeah, like the skies opened and buckets. So
we're driving to the Intercontinental, and it is like, our driver has his windshield wipers on as fast as they go.
He had to, like, slow down, like, to even see. He was like, we're just going to take it slow, folks.
So we get to the Intercontinental, and it's funny because a couple times along the way, like, the rain would stop, and there'd be, like, little sun breaks, and I'd be like, okay, oh, thank God.
Well, and the driver was in on it, and he just kind of kept saying, like, he knew where we were going and what we were doing. And so, like, he just kept saying, like, maybe it's just in the mountains. Like, it'll be fine once we're down on the beach. Like, everything's gonna be fine.
Yep. So we get to the Intercontinental, and everything is not fine. So when we get there, thunder, lightning. I mean,
torrential downpour.
Torrential downpour. I've only ever seen it rain this hard a couple of times in my whole life, and I'm just like, oh my God, dinner. All I can think of in my head is like dinner under the stars. Like,
there's no stars.
There's no stars. And so
dinner under the lightning. Like, what are we
right?
doing?
And so I kind of know going to the Intercontinental that this evening's going to look different, and I was fine with that. I was just like, okay, like certainly they have like a contingency plan. Mm-hmm. For rain, right?
Because it's Fiji, like, it rains. I mean, it's a thing that happens there on a fairly regular basis.
And so we get to the Intercontinental, we walk down to the front desk, and the front desk was a little bit confused by why we were there, and they were like, hold on, like, wait here for a second, we're just going to call around. And so I told them why we were there, who we had talked to, like, emails, all that kind of stuff. And so after, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes of just, like, standing and watching the lightning and the downpour, they give me the phone, and it's their, like, food and beverage manager or restaurant manager. And she's like, okay, so because of the weather outside, obviously, like, the dinner under the stars is canceled. And I'm like, yep, I assumed that. So, like, what, kind of what would be the plan for tonight? And there was just, like, silence on the other end of the phone. And she was like, no, it's canceled. I was like, okay. And it had been raining at the resort all day. And she mentioned that, like, they canceled all of their outdoor dining earlier. Like, no, this is, like, something that's been canceled all day. And I hadn't heard from the resort at all.
No phone, no email, like, nothing.
No, nothing. And so I'm like, okay, well, we just, like, spent 200 Fijian dollars, so $100 to get to the resort, drove 45 minutes, and like, we're here now, and I'm just now hearing, like, certainly you have another option.
Right.
And she got really rude on the phone with me. Now, I want to preface this by saying something. I, again, worked in the service industry for a long time. I will forgive almost anything. Bad food, like a server having a bad day, you know what I mean? Like a mix-up in anything. That stuff happens for the right reasons. But when you get really rude with a customer, that's where my fuse gets really short. And she started to get super snippy with me.
Which, I'm going to cut in here for a second. Every single interaction we had with any Fijian, prior and post this point, was perfection.
The greatest.
The kindest, nicest, friendliest people we have ever met.
Hands down.
Until we got to this 5-star resort, where pretty much every single person there was rude.
Yeah, the worst, hands down, all of the worst experiences we had, like interaction from a customer service standpoint, were at the nicest resort we went to.
Yes, even just like the interaction with like the front desk when we first got there and said, hey, we're here for this thing. Like we were clearly an inconvenience to them.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
100%. Like genuinely, the worst experience was at the nicest place.
Correct. So don't go there.
So, yeah, exactly. 100%.
Don't stay there.
so I'm on the phone with this lady, and she's like, and I'm like, so do we have any options? Like I said, like we just got here. Like first of all, I went back and checked. There was never anything in any of our communications or any of the emails or anything about this dinner that it was weather dependent, right? That had never come up. They never said, hey, just, if it rains, it's not happening. And so to me, I asked her, I was like, so is there there's an inside option? Like, do we move it to one of your dining rooms? She's like, no, we just can't. It's just canceled.
Dining rooms are booked.
Yeah, that's what she said. I was like, okay, so do you have any reservations anywhere? She's like, nope, our dining rooms are all full up tonight. And then she was like, you could go to the buffet and try to get in there. And I was like, I spent $200 and it's 45 minutes to get here, another 45 minutes to get back. I'm not going to a buffet on our anniversary, right? and so I asked her, I was like, okay. I was like, well, I appreciate that. Like, is there any other options that you guys have here? Is there anything else? Like, obviously this was a special night. And she's like, nope, that's all that we're able to offer you. And hung up. And legit, then hung up the phone. And I was kind of, legitimately stunned to the point that I just gave the phone back to the lady at the front desk. And we just walked away. And I called our driver, Dan, and I was like, because he had dropped us off half an hour before. Mm-hmm. And I called Dan. I was like, he was supposed to pick us up after dinner was over. I was like, Dan, any chance you can come back now? He was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I told him what happened. And even Dan was like, you've got to be kidding me. He was like, that is unbelievable the way they handled that.
Right. Adam really doesn't get mad often.
Right.
You were mad.
I
could feel the anger boiling off of you. And I was just like, oh dear God.
Horrible service pisses me off.
Yep.
Because here's the thing. In the hospitality world, there are a million things you can never control. Pipes burst. You know what I mean? Weather happens.
Right.
There are things that just happen. There are, a guest destroys a room. Something happens. One of the few things that you can control is that. Also, you're in the hospitality industry, and every person on your property treated us like we were an inconvenience. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. I think that we are among the best hotel guests.
Right.
Right? I think that we're kind to everybody.
We make our own bed.
Well, not only that, but we tip almost everybody we see.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We are the most flexible people. And so when you are rude, that's the thing that I'm like, nope. We're not going to play. We're not even going to play this.
Right.
So Dan, our driver, comes back. I'm pissed off.
In the time, it took probably 20 minutes or so for Dan to come back.
Uh-huh.
In that time, while we were waiting for him, Adam was writing an email.
Yep. So before we even left the Intercontinental, I had an email off to both the general manager of that property as well as the regional director for Intercontinental. Because you better damn well believe I know how to track that stuff down. Basically outlining everything as well as screenshots in emails. And I also gave them a list of ways that they could have made this better. Right? I'm like, you know what? Here's the thing.
Here's how you completely screwed this up, and here's what you could have done to not screw it up.
And here's the thing. It's even little things. If she would have said, I'm so sorry. Obviously, we have to cancel it because of tonight. We don't have any other indoor options. How long are you in Fiji for? Would it be possible for us to reschedule this for another night?
Right.
If she would have literally just said that, I would have said, you know what? Yes, let's do this tomorrow night or the next night or the night after. Because we still had 5 days in Fiji.
Right.
I would have rescheduled it and left and been perfectly happy.
Right. I mean, upset that it was canceled. But again, rain. We couldn't control that. So
can't control it. And I understand that. That's not the hotel's fault that it rained. Mm-hmm. It's the hotel's fault that they handled it in the worst way possible. And so I give them this whole list of ways you could have made this better. And just so you know, I heard back from them once. and nothing since then. But now, let's get to where this starts to turn around. So keep in mind, the resort we stayed at was like a 3.5 star. Well, I mean, online, it's a 4-star Doubletree. But the reality is, if I was rating it compared to like American resorts, it's a 3.5 star resort. Probably.
But we had perfect service.
Well, but as far service, it's a 5-star resort. But as far as like the quality of the property. And so when you look in Intercontinental next to a Doubletree, you would assume everything about the Intercontinental would be better. So we have a terrible experience at the Intercontinental. Dan comes and picks us up. I've now shot off my email.
You're pissed. Dan, the whole drive home was like, you better leave a TripAdvisor report. Like, you better leave a TripAdvisor review.
It was so funny. He was like, I cannot believe they did that. And he was like, that is like, not the Fijian way.
Right,
like,
he was
that
upset
is not the
for
Fijian way. Like,
really funny.
I felt like he was embarrassed for his people.
Right, as he should have been. I mean, they were horrid.
It was terrible. So, we get back to the Doubletree. And at this point, I'm thinking, like, let's just get dinner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let's go to our own buffet.
It's our anniversary. Let's get dinner and go make out. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Let's be honest.
Honestly, like, we even considered, like, should we just get room service? Like,
right.
should we just go back to our room and just get room service and
that
just
kind of
be in for the night? Because
right.
we're kind of, like, not people ready.
So our resort had 2 restaurants. We had the buffet that was kind of, always available. But again, it's our anniversary. You don't want to eat at a buffet for your anniversary. And then they had this other restaurant called... Tavu, which was like tables on the beach, really nice. We hadn't eaten there yet, but they had told us a couple nights before that Tavu typically books out a couple nights in advance. So if we wanted to eat at Tavu, to let them know, book out a couple days because it fills up.
Right. So we did. We'd actually had a reservation for the next night.
Yep. So we get back to our hotel, and here's the thing. You guys, I could... If the Doubletree Fiji called me right now and was like, hey, will you make infomercials for us? I'd say yes for the rest of my life. Because it was the pinnacle in so many ways. It made a 3.5-star resort a 5-star experience just by the service they offered. So we get back and we get back to our resort, and the first person who sees us is the boat driver. Right? Because we have to take a boat from the jetty back to kind of the resort.
Yep.
And he's like, wait a second.
I just dropped you off. Why are you back so quick?
Why are you guys back? Like,
because he knew that we were going somewhere.
Yep. To like a nice dinner.
We were dressed up.
We're like, what? He's like, why are you back already? So we kind of gave him a short story, and he's appalled. Right? He's just like, I genuinely can't believe that they did that to you. So then we get to the resort. We walk into the front desk area, and there were a couple front desk staff that I had talked to who knew what the plans were for that night. And one of the girls came up to me and she's like, Mr. Legg, why are you, like, you're back so soon. Why are you here? And I told her, I was like, well, here's what happened. And so I was just wondering, do you have any openings at the buffet tonight for reservation? Like, it's getting later. And
at this point, it's probably 8:30 or, no, it's probably 7.
It's probably 7.
It's about 7
right.
o'clock.
And I was like, do you have any reservations at the buffet? I was like, or by any chance, were there any cancellations at Tavu? Tavu, right?
Tavu, yep.
Thank you. And she was like, hold on 1 second. And so Sherry and I wait there. And she's gone for maybe 10 minutes or so. And she comes back, maybe not even that long. And she comes back and she goes, Mr. and Miss Legg, is there any way at all that you guys could give us 1 hour? Can you give us 1 hour?
She's like, we can get you into Tavu, but if you could just give us an hour.
And we were stoked. We're like, oh my gosh, like, we're going to have a nice dinner on the beach. And we just have to wait an hour? Yes, absolutely.
Yep. So we'll just move our reservation, from the next night to tonight. If that's...
Yep. So all of a sudden, things are starting to turn around. It's not this big fancy dinner that I, had been planning for 2 months. At this, 5-star resort on the 9th nicest beach in the world. But our resort is helping us make it be something more than a buffet, right? So we go to our room and kind of kill an hour and we walk back down to Tavu. And as we're walking down to Tavu, we see there's this one canopy that is set away. Canopy makes it sound cheap. Well, what would you describe it as?
Little
pavilion?
Well, no, like, I mean, just like a tented, like, I don't know, canopy probably,
Okay.
but like
a nice thing.
Yes.
It's like got a table beautifully set. It's like lit up.
Yep. Like candles, and we walked past it, and part of me was just like, that would be fun. Like,
because
that's what we want on our anniversary.
That was my thought. It was like, oh my god, like look how beautiful that is. Like that's what the Intercontinental was supposed to give us.
Right.
It was,
how do we get that?
It was private. It was on the beach. All of that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh my god, this is beautiful. And so we walked down to Tavu, and we're waiting, and the lady comes to seat us, and she's like walking us through like all of the other tables, and then she's like, we're past all of the tables. And the only thing ahead of us is like this beautiful lighted fabric wrapped pavilion on the beach, right by the water.
With a single table underneath it. Like it's
just
a 2-person table.
It's so private. And she was like, we felt so bad when you told us what happened. When we heard what happened, we felt so bad. We really wanted to make your anniversary night special. And so our team rushed to put this together. Like
a whole bouquet on the table, like I mean, just the whole thing, and I cried. I'm not gonna lie.
It was so beautiful.
It was perfect,
and it was the craziest thing because that's the kind of thing you expect the Intercontinental to do,
right.
Not the Doubletree.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if there's a resort that should have messed something up, it's the Doubletree, not the Intercontinental, one of the pinnacle, like, hospitality brands in the world.
Right.
But it was the Doubletree that, like, absolutely saved the day. They went above and beyond, and they made up for somebody else's mistake that they didn't even make.
Right. Like, they made up for it, and with so many leaps and bounds that, like, when, like, at the end of the trip, when we were like, what was your low? Like, neither one of us could even think of a low. We were just like, I don't know. Like, the whole trip was great. And then, like, 20 minutes later, I was like, oh, except for the dinner at the Intercontinental, that was a bust.
But the way that the Doubletree made up for it, we had forgotten completely about it.
Completely forgot that even happened.
It's so crazy.
Right.
And so it was amazing the swing in emotions we had. And we sat there and we had one of the best meals of our trip.
Excellent wine.
I was just going to say, we had great wine. The setting was just perfect. It was beautiful.
Right on the beach, you could hear the water. I mean, it was dark, so you couldn't see the water, but you could hear the water.
It was private. It was just us.
It was probably 50 feet away from any other table, so it was like far enough away that like we kind of had our own private conversation. Like, we could, it wasn't like in the mix of all the other tables. Like, it was perfect.
It really was perfect. And it just, to me, here's the thing. The Doubletree that we stayed at, this is what's tough about Fiji. There are some resorts that you look at and it's like, that looks fake. Like, it's so beautiful and it's perfect. And they're also $2,000 a night. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, that's not for people like us. The Doubletree had like the most amazing price to let us like stay in Fiji for long with a really big room because we didn't want we wanted that like private bureau kind of feel. We didn't want to feel like we were in a hotel. And that's a place that honestly we could just like sit outside with our toes in the sand and read. Like it checked all of our boxes for this trip. And while I love that it checked all of the boxes for the trip, the reason that if I was to go back to Fiji, or the reason that I will recommend that resort to anybody going is the service that we experienced there beats any place we've ever stayed in the world.
Yes, and not just that night. Like, they went way above and beyond.
It was the whole trip.
Everybody was so great. A lot of the staff made us cry as we were leaving, and it was just like, I mean, it was perfect.
It was perfect. I told Sherry, if I was opening a hotel or a chain and I was looking to hire people to work that had like the hospitality spirit, I would literally just go and steal all the employees from the Doubletree. I would just go take all of them because they're perfect. But that
certainly not from the Intercontinental.
I still to this day when I think about it, I get so angry.
And here's where my pettiness comes in real hard.
Your what, pettiness?
Pettiness.
Ooh, I can't wait.
I will never ever stay at an Intercontinental. I don't care if we somehow become like gazillionaires and we can afford to stay there. Never will. not going to happen. Because if the people in Fiji can't even suck it up enough to just be nice, like pretend to feel sorry about us ruining our, like, the, you know, the weather ruining our night, no. Like, nobody in that chain deserves one dime of mine.
That's the hard part. It's like, I used to work for Intercontinental, and I know what their brand standards are, and I know what their training is, and I know what the desire of that brand is, and like that. And this is actually what I said in the email, is like, I told them their corporate vision statement. You know what I mean? Because again, like, I worked for that. I worked for them. Mm-hmm. I told them, like, I know that, like, these are the values of your brand, of your chain. And Intercontinental Hotel Group, I'm going to nerd out for a minute.
Okay.
Intercontinental Hotel Group, IHG, think of, like, Holiday Inn, right? Those are all part of IHG.
Right.
But Intercontinental, like, that chain of hotels, is among the premium, the very premier of that chain. And so then, premier should be in every single way. However, one of the things that you do tend to see in the hospitality industry is when you get to that top tier of hotel, you almost lose some of the personal service, because, you know, they almost try to be too
professional,
I don't know that professional's the right word. Polished, that it loses the humanity, maybe. Right? Because think of, like, the Doubletree. The reason that we love it is that everyone there was so frickin' friendly and nice, and like,
and they knew our names,
and they wanted to know, like, all about Alaska, right? They wanted to know, like, our story. They wanted to know everything about us. Like, that would never fit at an Intercontinental or most, like, very high-end hotel brands. That's not, you know what I mean? Like, you're not friendly with guests in that way. And some of that is because a lot of guests the reality is that when celebrities go to Fiji, the Intercontinental is one of the resorts they stay at.
Because they don't want that personal, like,
right.
digging.
100%. Like, I don't want somebody inquiring about my life. I want you to check me into my room so that I can, you know what I mean? Like, go enjoy anonymity. That kind of thing. But to me, it's like, that's
you can still be
a
human,
decent person.
a decent human being. And not one single person there was.
I still can't believe she hung up on me.
Right? And, like, everybody, like, there were 3 or 4 people at the front desk, and every one of them was, like, it was radiating off of them how much of an inconvenience we were. And I was just like, this is literally your job.
Yeah.
Like, when people come to your hotel, it is your job to greet them.
Yeah.
And make them feel welcome at your hotel.
Yeah.
And not one of them did.
No, that was...
I was like, it
was a top 5 worst hotel experience of my life. And I've stayed in literally hundreds of hotels. Right? Definitely top 5. Maybe top 2 or 3. Yeah. So there you go.
So exciting. But, again...
The Doubletree.
Dang it. Like, when they... I mean, the way that they fixed it... And the way that they scrambled and bent over backwards to give us a romantic dinner for our anniversary.
And the thing that I love is the next day after anniversary, we saw the girl who I saw in the lobby who ended up making all this happen. And I thanked her. I said, thank you. Like, that was so far above and beyond. Like, we were just glad to get a reservation. And what she said was very telling. She was like, when I heard the story of what happened to you, she said, there was no way that we could let your evening be anything but special. like that's, you know what I mean? That's what
I want.
I was like, oh, God, like, this is the pinnacle. Like, you guys are the best.
And it turns out that they actually, so, like, the girl that was just there at, like, the activities desk that we talked to, that was, you know, booking, she actually talked to the general manager and said, this is what's going on, what can we do for them? And so it was actually the general manager who, like, made it all happen too. Like,
yeah, they were just like, we can't just give them a table at a restaurant.
Right.
Like, let's make this as special as we possibly can because it's a special day. So there you go. That's the story about how our anniversary was ruined. I was furious. And again, not at the weather, not even at the canceled dinner. Furious at bad service. And I'm also really mad when people, like, get treated like less than. Mm-hmm. And that's 100% how we were made to feel.
Yes.
From the second we walked through the door.
We were an inconvenience and we were not up to their standards of who they wanted to serve. And I'm sorry, rude.
You know what I think my takeaway is?
What?
We're just Doubletree people.
You know what? And I am 100% okay with that, especially if it's that. Okay, so we posted on Facebook about this. and like tagged the Doubletree Fiji, but then also tagged like just Doubletree, like Doubletree.
Yeah, their main Doubletree account.
Main Doubletree reached out to us and said, "We're so glad you had such a great experience. Send us your home address. We would like to send you something."
They were like, we're so glad to hear that like our Fiji team was able to take care of you. Can you please send us your mailing address? We want to keep the celebration going. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, you know. And Doubletree's kind of known for sending cookies because that's like Doubletree's thing, right? You have cookies at the front desk.
Yes, they do.
And yes, they do. And so that's kind of what I expected. I was like, oh, they're gonna send cookies. Like that's awesome. Like literally, just them responding is above and beyond.
Right.
So super cool. So I don't know, a week later, we get a letter in the mail here at home from Doubletree, and basically with like a
handwritten note
saying thank you. So glad you loved Fiji. Thanks for sharing your experience with us. Here's a certificate for a free night stay at any Doubletree in the world.
Right?
Like
what? And again, they did not have to do any of that. Like, we would have just been happy with, like, a response. Like, hey, we're so glad that you enjoyed your time. You know, like...
Glad our team took care of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Literally, something like that.
Right. But, again, with the above and beyond. So...
It was so good. So,
yeah.
There you guys go. Sherry Beth, when you think of on spending our anniversary in Fiji, what is it you think of?
That dinner. And just, I mean... The day leading up to it was great. Like, again, it was kind of cloudy, but that was okay. And we just still sat on the beach and read our books because it didn't actually rain at our resort. And, I mean, it was a really great anniversary.
I'll remember two things. Number one, the way the Doubletree saved the day. The other thing I'll remember is how pissed Dan, our driver, was.
He really was.
Because here's the thing. He took up our offense, like, instantly. Dan was like, tell me what happened. And first of all, Dan's a big guy. Dan could destroy me.
Right.
Like, I used to be a bouncer. I've been in a number of fights in my life. Right, like all of that kind of stuff. But like, if things went down between Dan and I'm dying. Let's be very clear.
But he was a teddy bear.
Oh, 100%. He was a nice guy, but boy, he was
nicest guy. But it was like a personal affront
100%.
that we had been treated rudely. Like he was angry. Like I can't even believe. Like it's almost to the point where like on our drive home, because again, 45 minutes more.
Yeah.
In the car with him, I bet he said 10 times
at least.
Are you gonna leave a TripAdvisor review? You have to leave a TripAdvisor review.
He's like,
you've got to ream them. He's like, you've got to rip them a new one.
Yep. He's like, people have to know that's the way they're treating people. He's like, people don't come to Fiji be treated that way. We can't let people stay there if that's how they're treating people.
Right.
And it was at the end. It was almost like, okay, Dan. Like,
no, we get it.
I was a little concerned Dan was going back to the Intercontinental.
I know.
After he dropped us off.
Like full beat down.
Yeah, it's like, Dan, don't do anything dumb. Don't do anything
Go
dumb,
home
Dan.
to your kids.
Go home,
it's
Dan.
all right.
Go home, Dan. So there you go. That was our story of our up and down crazy anniversary. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still bummed because like so much planning and effort went into making that night special that I'm bummed that it never got to happen. But at the same time, we have a super cool story and like our resort frickin' saved the day.
Yeah, they did.
There you go, friends. I don't think I have any questions. Like, normally in our podcast, we're like, all right, go leave us a comment. But I don't know what the comment would be on this one, Sherry. Any ideas?
Have you ever had any horrible experiences?
Like a horrible hotel experience?
Like a horrible hotel experience.
Sherry,
we want all the tea.
Here's what you do. Go to YouTube, search LeggLife Podcast, find this episode, the Fiji anniversary episode, and leave a comment with your terrible, scandalous... Absolutely, let us know.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. We want to know all of the tea.
Oh God, I'm so excited now.
I can't wait to read all of these.
I cannot
wait.
Please tell me what your worst hotel experience has been, friends. We love you guys so much. Again, sorry that it was several weeks that we took off.
Yeah.
I will say though that as we've kind of come back to life and had lots of discussion about just kind of plugging in and replugging in and what we want to keep going, what we want to stop. I definitely think the podcast is one of those things we want to keep going.
Yep.
So. More from us in the future. Hopefully next week. Hopefully it's not 7 weeks. But
we'll see.
We'll see when we see you. All right, friends. See you on the next episode. Bye.